In this video, we'll take a slow and quiet look at the history of Six Flags Great Adventure in Jackson, New Jersey. We'll move gently through its development over time, from its earlier days to the gradual changes that shaped the park into what it is today. Along the way, we'll spend some time on a few of its more familiar features, including the safari, the different themed areas, and some of the small, everyday details that are easy to overlook. There's no need to focus too closely, and nothing here will require much attention. This is simply a calm, steady walkthrough of a place many people have visited or passed by without thinking much about its history. So you can settle in and just listen as we take a quiet look at Six Flags Great Adventure. One of the more unusual features of Six Flags Great Adventure is the safari, a large open area where visitors can slowly pass through and observe animals from their cars. The safari has been part of the property for many years, and it occupies a wide stretch of land, set slightly apart from the main park. Instead of rides or crowds, the space is quiet and open, with long paths that move gently through fields and lightly wooded areas. As vehicles enter the safari, they follow a winding road, moving at a slow and steady pace. There are no sudden movements and no need to rush. Cars simply continue forward, sometimes pausing as the animals cross the road or stand nearby. Different sections of the safari are home to different types of animals. Some areas may include herds of grazing animals spread out across open land, while others might have smaller groups resting quietly or moving slowly through the space. At times, the animals come closer to the road, while at other times, they remain at a distance, barely moving, blending into the landscape. The experience is generally calm and unhurried. There is no set schedule and no clear beginning or end to what you might see. Instead, the safari feels continuous, as if it simply exists, whether visitors are there or not. The sounds are minimal, often limited to the quiet hum of engines and the occasional movement of animals nearby. There are no loud announcements and very little structure beyond the road itself. Because of this, the safari creates a different kind of atmosphere compared to the rest of the park. It is slower, quieter, and more spread out. Over time, the safari has remained a consistent part of the property, even as other areas of the park have changed. And in many ways, it offers a steady contrast to the more active sections nearby. A place where movement is gradual and where not much happens all at once. As the park continued to develop over time, different areas began to take on their own distinct themes. Rather than feeling like a single, uniform space, the park gradually became a collection of smaller sections, each with its own layout and its own general atmosphere. These themed areas were not introduced all at once. Instead, they appeared gradually as new parts of the park were added, or as existing areas were adjusted and reworked. Each section was given a slightly different style, sometimes based on a place, and other times based on a general idea or setting. In some areas, the buildings and pathways follow a consistent pattern, with similar colors, materials, and shapes. In others, the design is more open, with wider walkways and fewer visual details. As visitors move from one section to another, the changes are usually subtle. There are no sharp boundaries and no sudden transitions. Instead, the shift from one themed area to the next tends to happen gradually, often without much notice. Over time, these sections have been updated, renamed, or reorganized. Some themes have remained in place for many years, while others have been replaced or adjusted as the park continued to change. Even so, the general idea has stayed consistent. The park is not meant to feel like one continuous environment, but rather a series of connected spaces, each with its own quiet differences. In this way, the themed areas help organize the park without drawing too much attention to themselves. They provide structure, but in a way that remains calm and easy to move through. And much like the safari, they contribute to a sense of gradual movement, where nothing changes too quickly, and where each space blends softly into the next. Over time, the park continued to expand, not all at once, but in gradual steps, spread out across many years. New areas were added slowly, often extending outward from existing sections, rather than replacing them entirely. In some cases, open land was developed into new pathways, buildings, or attractions. In other cases, older areas were adjusted or quietly reworked to fit the needs of the park as it changed. This process did not follow a single, fixed plan. Instead, expansion tended to happen in phases, with each addition blending into what was already there. Because of this, the park grew in a way that feels somewhat organic, without sharp lines between older and newer sections. As the years passed, the overall layout became more spread out. Paths extended further, distances between areas increased, and the park took on a broader shape. Even with these changes, many parts of the original structure remained in place, serving as a foundation for what came later. Some additions were more noticeable than others, but most changes were gradual and easy to miss over time. A visitor returning after several years might notice that things feel different without immediately identifying what has changed. The pace of development was steady, but not rushed. There were periods of more activity, followed by quieter stretches, where the park remained largely the same. Through all of this, the expansion helped shape the park into a larger, more varied space, while still maintaining a sense of continuity. Nothing appeared all at once. Everything was added, piece by piece, over time. And in that way, the park became a collection of layers, built slowly and settled into place. As the park continued to grow and change, there came a point when its ownership shifted. Over time, Six Flags became the company responsible for operating the property, bringing it into a larger network of parks across different locations. This change did not happen all at once, and it did not immediately alter the experience of visiting the park. Many of the existing areas remained in place, and much of the layout continued as it had before. Instead, the transition was gradual, with adjustments made over time. Being part of a larger company meant that the park could follow certain patterns, similar to other locations within the same system. Some updates reflected this connection, while others remained specific to the park itself. The name, Six Flags, Great Adventure, became the standard way to refer to the property, linking it to a broader group, while still keeping its original identity. Over time, small changes continued to appear. Some areas were updated, others were reworked, and certain features were brought in line with the overall direction of the company. Even so, much of what had developed earlier remained recognizable. The park did not lose its structure, but instead continued to evolve within a new framework. Visitors returning after the transition might notice subtle differences, but the overall experience stayed familiar. Paths remained where they had been, sections continued to connect in the same way, and the general layout stayed consistent. In this way, the shift in ownership became just another part of the park's ongoing development. Not a sudden change, but a gradual adjustment, added quietly, over time, throughout the park. Beyond the larger features and open spaces, there are many smaller, everyday details that tend to go unnoticed. Scattered along the pathways, there are food stands, small restaurants, and simple places to sit. These areas are often spaced out at regular intervals, appearing in familiar patterns. As visitors move from one section to another, the menus are usually consistent, offering similar items across different parts of the park. Simple meals, snacks, and drinks prepared in a steady and predictable way. There is no need to think too much about what to choose. The options remain mostly the same, from one visit to the next. Nearby, there are small shops placed along the walkways or near the entrances to different areas. These shops often carry similar items, arranged in similar ways, with shelves and displays that repeat across locations. Some are larger, while others are more compact, but the overall feeling is consistent. Between these spaces, there are benches, shaded areas, and open spots where people pause briefly before continuing on. Nothing here is especially fast or demanding. Movement tends to slow down in these areas as people stop, look around, or simply wait. The layout encourages a steady rhythm with moments of activity, followed by quieter stretches. Over time, these smaller details become part of the background. They are always present, but rarely the main focus. And yet, they help shape the overall experience in a quiet and consistent way. Not through large changes or noticeable events, but through repetition, familiarity, and a steady sense of place. And that was a quiet look at Six Flags' Great Adventure. If you found this relaxing, you can like the video or subscribe for more slow, steady history like this. There's always more to explore at a calm and unhurried pace.